All right, this is our introduction to arrays. This is chapter 7 in the book. If there's in chapter 7 is arrays and vectors. Vectors we won't cover till the end of CIS 115, but now is the time that we'll go over the array section. I would strongly suggest that you read this. If you are one of the people that read, which I really can't stress enough how much it would help your grade and your programming knowledge to read the book as you go along, right? You got different points of access as far as the information. You got me, Dr. Zimmer, and the book, and I guess the videos. So I take advantage of each one of the four. All right. Arrays are really important for dealing with large amounts of sequential data. All right. If you know how much data that you've got, arrays um, cut a place in memory, right, for a single type of element. All right. This code right here is an array that is 3 elements long. Right. Here we use the word element, not objects. Right. 3 elements long. So it's 3 int elements long. So it's storage for 3. Um, Arrays can be strings, arrays can be integers, arrays can be um, characters, it can be arrays of arrays. Um, for the purpose of this chapter, we're just going to stick with the basics. All right. We're going to use uh, chars, ints, doubles, and strings for this chapter. All right. So this is an array right here, and this is the naming convention. This is an array of 3 elements. All right. 3 integer elements. Okay. The naming, the way to reference those 3 elements is the thing that causes people the most anguish and frustration. Um, at some point, you'll make a mistake with it. Everybody does. But it's one of those things I hope you learn from quickly, right? The way to access these is like this, right? The 3 elements start with the number 0, right? My num array, the first element, you're going to find it, my num array 0, subscript 0, inside the square brackets, right? The second, you're going to find in my num array 1 in square brackets. And the third, you're going to find in my num array 2 square brackets. All right. There's no default setting where there's not a setting that you can change this. That's how it's been referred to in all languages for, I don't know, decades. C++, C, any of the other older Java. Um, this is consistent. All right. The first element's 0, the second element's 1, 2, so forth. All right. So I've made an int array that's 3 long. So they're going to be my num array 0, my num array 1, my num array 2. So I'm going to ask the user to enter some information. Then I'm going to, just like you've done in other variables, I'm going to treat this sort of like a variable. I'm going to assign the value of whatever they enter to my num array 0. And then whatever they enter to my num array 1, then my num array 2. If you're wondering what happens if you go to my num array 3, I can't tell you. Whatever's in that location in memory, it may give you an error. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things happen. It's called an out of bounds condition. All right. If you go to my num array 3, um, try it out. I mean, you can't hurt your computer. You can't, I mean, you're not going to give yourself a virus or it's going to explode in front of you. See what kind of information that it outputs. All right. So I've entered all 3 of those. Then just to see what it looks like, I'm going to output it to the screen. And the way to output it is the same way as you input it. I'm going to see out my num array 0. Written like that, it works just the same as a variable. As a matter of fact, it is a variable. and my number array 1, my number array 2. So I'm going to run this. Please enter number 23, 378. Remember, arrays can get rather large. I'm sorry, um, integers can get kind of large. So there's my three integers. I've put in 0, 1, and 2, my number array 0, 1, and 2, and output, there they are. All right, inputting data into an array like this is totally legal, but it's not very effective, especially if you're dealing with larger numbers. So this is where we've already dealt with for loops, but this is where for loops really become essential. Control. All right, this is sort of a review, but now we're getting to the point where we deal with arrays a lot, the rest of CIS 114 and CIS 115. Okay, so here is going to be kind of a review, but you must, I mean, it's imperative that you understand how to use a for loop. So here is the call to the for loop. I set an integer I, which is like a temporary variable. I set to 0, all right? I define it here and assign it the value of 0, all right? I'm going to loop through this program I less than 3 because 3 is the length of the array, all right? And there's my increment right there, I plus plus. Remember, that's a postfix increment. It doesn't increment until after the call below. All right. So please enter a number. It's going to enter num0, just like I did up in this line. It's going to increment. It's going to become 1. It's going to go back up here, test the condition. 1 is less than 3. All right. It's going to go through here, and it's going to enter into my number array 1, which is the second element. All right. It's going to go past this. It's going to increment again to 2. It's going to go back up to the top of the for loop, test the condition. 2 is less than 3, right? So it goes through the array again. It enters the third number, which is my num array 2, goes past this, it increments again to 3. It goes up and tests the condition. 3 is not less than 3. So it kicks out and goes to the next line, and then we print this out. So just knowing from this set of conditions, you're going to assign my num array 0, my num array 1, my num array 2. All right, it's going to go back and test the condition. It's going to get the 3. Nope, it's going to kick out and then print. So it's going to do the same thing as this did up here. All right, I'm going to run this. 23, 4, 12, and there's the contents of my two-dimensional, I mean my array, not two-dimensional. We get to that later. All right. The beauty of this is, look at this. If I wanted to enter, say I wanted to enter 75 elements, I would need 150 lines if I did it like this. If I want to do 75 items with a for loop, all I need to do is change this number to 75, right? Using a for loop to process through an array is so much more effective, especially the bigger the numbers get. Pitfalls of it are the off by one. The fact that the elements in the array start at 0, you have to handle those conditions inside of the array. Right? It's really easy. Uh, a novice programmer might start it counting at 1, and you can see what happens there is you start the first element you enter into is my num array 1, which happens to be the second element in the array, right? Give this a good hard look. I've got a question that goes along with the video that'll make you think about this, but it's really imperative that you understand how to process an array with a for loop. We're going to go to something here that's soon that's called a nested for loop that processes through a two-dimensional array, which if you're looking visualizing that, that's like a grid, columns and rows. But for now, we're just dealing with an array of one type of character, one type of int, one type of string, right, of a designated length. Okay, so just think of a row of something.